and salute the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, it is hereby announced and shall be entered into the minutes of this meeting that adequate notice of the meeting has been provided by the following: posted on the bulletin board of the office of the Township Clerk, posted on the bulletin boards within the municipal complex, printed in a Home News Tribune on December 30, 2021, posted on the Monroe Township website, and sent to those individuals who have requested personal notice. Laura, please take the roll.
Mr. Pelori,
I'm here.
Mr. Rothman,
Here?
Mr. Riggs, Ms. Polidoro. Here. Ms. Brodsky. Here. Mr. McGowan,
Here.
Mr. Patel.
Here.
Ms. Qureshi. Here. Councilman Van Zura,
Here.
Mr. Markel.
Here.
Chairman Gaffrey.
Here. Okay, Laura circulated the minutes from the last meeting. They're in everybody's packet that was sent. Do I have a motion with respect to the minutes?
Make a motion.
Second. Okay, all in favor of adopting the minutes?
Aye.
All, any opposed?
I abstain.
Okay, any other abstentions?
Abstain.
Okay, on the agenda tonight, we have actually 3 applications, and for purposes of time, we're going to move right into them. The first application is PB 1248-22, Robert and Doreen McDade. Good morning, or good afternoon.
My name's Salvatore Alfieri. I'm a Cleary. Good. Better?
Just move it right up to you.
My name is Salvatore Alfieri. I'm here on behalf of the applicants, Robert and Doreen McDade. I'm from the law offices of Cleary, Giacobbe, Alfieri, and Jacobs. With me tonight, as you can see, we have our professional here who's setting up, and his name is Brian Murphy. So unless there's any objections from the board, I'd like to just swear in Mr. Murphy, have him put his credentials on, and he'd be able to.
Do you
go
swear
through
to
the
tell the truth,
application.
the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your full name and spell your last name.
Brian Murphy, M-U-R-P-H-Y, 1856 Route 9, Toms River. Licensed professional engineer and planner in the state of New Jersey. I've been before this board.
Okay, any questions on his credentials?
I move to accept his credentials.
Second. Yeah, you can proceed.
All right. We have a relatively simple application tonight. It's block 60, lot 21.15. It's in the Majestic Woods subdivision. Majestic Woods Drive runs through the subdivision off of Schoolhouse Road. The property in question is a single lot. It's indicated in red. This is a Google Earth aerial shot, Exhibit A1. As you can see, we have residential uses all around us. And the lot is obviously substantially oversized for the zone. What we're proposing is to create 3 lots out of that single lot. We have no construction being proposed with this application. Everything exists today that's constructed. The single-family house is going to remain on the larger lot. Then we have a subdivision of 2 smaller lots, and those lots will be solely for the existing drainage basins that are on the site. We're proposing to dedicate those basins to the township. Obviously, we need council approval to do that. But that's why we're here tonight, is basically subdivide those lots off. As I indicated, there's no construction at all proposed with this application. The lot that has the house on it will be fully conforming after the subdivision. No variances, no waivers associated with that single-family residence. The variances that are proposed tonight are associated with the basin lots. So the 3 lots are lot 21.17. That will be a basin lot. Lot 21.18 will possess the existing home, and lot 21.19 will be the other basin lot. The variances that we're proposing are lot area 30,000 square feet is required. On lot 21.17, 25,627 square feet is proposed. And for lot 21.19, 27,671 square feet is proposed. Again, these are not building lots, they're just basin lots, stormwater management. Lot depth, 200 feet is required. Lot 21.18 has 125.58. The frontage along the street for lot 21.17. Off of Schoolhouse Road through an access easement that goes back to the property. We propose to maintain those access points, but it doesn't have frontage on the street. But again, as I indicated, this is the building lot. Simply a property management lot. The benefits of this deviation will outweigh any detriment. Certainly, I think the maintenance of the basin, the township is certainly more capable of maintaining the basin than the homeowner association. We understand that should be associated with this transfer, should be approved with the council. And again, I feel that that maintenance alone will help public safety and the general welfare of the township. The area township maintain basin presence. All I have.
Any questions from our professionals?
Thank you, Mr. Murphy, for listing the variances. As you know, the no street frontage is more like a statute requirement. And one of the reasons they have to make sure is emergency access is always available. In your professional opinion, would that be provided with this lot?
Today, access will be maintained to those basins and into those basins for maintenance.
Okay. The next question I have is, again, with the proposed lot numbers, I would recommend that that be approved by the township tax assessor, just to make sure. And lastly, any kind of, this subdivision is going to be filed by deed. Is that correct?
We may do it.
Okay. Okay. Either way, I think that would need approval from the board engineer as well as the board attorney. All right. Thank you. That's all I have for now.
Mr. Chairman, the board's in receipt of my October 13, 2022 review letter. Just for the record, Ryan, you agreeable to meet all the comments in my review letter?
That is correct.
Okay, and this, if this board approves the application, it's subject to council approval for the dedication of the stormwater basins to the township. And that's all I have.
Any questions from the members of the board?
What was the, sorry,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, couple quick questions. I think our planner already raised. One of them is the emergency access. Is that going to be somewhat constrained only for access for service vehicles? Just a concern about the kids running around and getting closer to the drainage basin. Is there going to be some sort of a precaution, or are you putting a fence around it to protect it?
Yeah, fencing exists and it's going to remain as it does today. It was required as part of the original application, and we were proposed to keep the fencing and keep that access.
Okay, so there are existing basins there now.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, there's nothing proposed with the application.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, I guess my question is, why would the township accept this change?
Well, the town is better off maintaining this basin than a 13-lot HOA. There's a fee that'll be associated with that application as well. That's not for this board. We're gonna have to go to the council.
So there's still the town isn't paying for it, or the HOA is?
The HOA, the HOA will have to pay a fee to the town to take over.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I can help clarify that. The stormwater basins are taking stormwater from an existing township road. Majestic Drive is a township road. At the time of the approval, the original approval, these basins were on the applicant's lot. And at that time, he was maintaining them, so he did not provide the contribution that's required under the ordinance for a township stormwater basin. We've done this before on a couple of developments for HOAs, where the basins were actually dedicated to the township later. However, they had to provide that contribution that would have been originally required had these been township basins at the time of the original approval. Again, we've done this a couple of times in the past.
And just to follow up with that, the resolution, all the conditions in the original resolution have been met before they dedicate them to us?
Yes, one of the items in my review letter is that they got to provide the certification that the basins, well, they're built and they're functioning, but they got to demonstrate that they're functioning in accordance with the original design before we'll accept it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to clarify that in the event that the Township Council does not approve, which is probably not very likely, but in the event that that may occur, I wanted understood that this approval for the subdivision would not in any way allow for the building on the two new subdivision lots. It's meant to be for the basins. I mean, we're not gonna have any way, shape, or form will there be any building on those two lots. That's
Anybody else? Do I have a motion?
I would move to
I'm
approve.
sorry. Member-
Open to the public.
And any members of the public wish to be heard on this? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
I make a motion to accept the application as stated.
Second?
Second.
Mr. Flory,
Yes.
Mr. Rothman,
Yes.
Ms. Polidoro,
Yes.
Ms. Brodsky,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Mr. Patel,
Yes.
Councilman Banzura,
Yes.
Mr. Markel,
Yes.
Chairman Gaffrey.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you for your time.
Okay. The next application on the agenda is PB 1246-22 Apple Realty LLC.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rosalind Westlake. I am here on behalf of the applicant, Apple Realty LLC. With your permission, may I sit down?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
May I sit down?
Yes, please.
Just because.
We should hold off all those people coming in.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much for your time this evening. We are here for a minor subdivision, although it looks like it's a humongous application. It really isn't. It's just we are taking an existing functional shopping center that happens to also have an office building on it and seeking to separate the two uses into two lots. The property is the Apple Plaza, located at 355 Applegarth Road, block 47.01, lot 8.01. And it's in the neighborhood commercial zone. Uses are conforming. And as I just noted, it's an irregularly shaped lot that we are seeking to divide into two lots. There will be absolutely no change of any kind whatsoever to the lots. We are literally drawing a line behind the rather weird shaped part of the lot where the municipal facility is. We do have a number of variances that are created as a result of that subdivision, and I do have a professional planning here this evening to go over the positive and negative criteria in support of the requested variances. I also have tonight with me Kelly Hallam, who is a representative of the property owner and applicant, and also site engineer Matthew Wilder from Morgan Engineering, and our professional planner John Tykina. So without any further ado, I'd like to bring up Ms. Hallam to just very briefly testify as to effectively the reason.
Would you raise your right
I'd like to
hand?
do
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
And you can be
You're-
seated.
full name and spell your last name?
Is
There's
that-
a button on it, just hold it till the light turns on. Light on?
I'm not sure that's fitting.
No, is the light on?
Here, you want to sit down?
Yeah, you,
Finger off.
Okay, sorry. Kelly Hallam, and it's KELLYHALLAM.
Okay, and could you explain to the board what is your affiliation with the owner applicant?
Yes, I am an assistant property manager.
Okay, and you are obviously familiar with the plan and the application and so on.
Yes.
All right, and can you just tell the board what the current use of the property is?
Can I sit?
Yeah, please.
There's one office building that has 4 tenants,
Okay,
and then there's another retail shopping center that has 2 buildings.
okay, great. And just very briefly, explain why it is that we're here requesting this subdivision.
To facilitate financing a possible sale of the property. Potential buyers have expressed that they're interested in either the office building or the shopping center, but they're not interested in a mixed use.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I have nothing further of this witness. I'd like to
Is
move
there
on
any
to
questions
the
of this witness?
engineer.
No, hearing none, thank you.
who's next?
Yes, I have the engineer next, please. This is Matthew Wilder from Morgan Engineering.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Say your full name and spell your last name, please.
Matthew Wilder, Wilder, business address of 130 Central Avenue, Island Heights, New Jersey.
Okay, great. And can you please give the board the benefit of your educational and professional experience?
Sure. I graduated from Rowan University in 2006. I've been a licensed professional engineer for the past 8 years. I've appeared before approximately 50 boards on 250 applications, not before this board, but before the zoning board in Monroe on multiple occasions.
Okay. Unless there's any questions, I'll approve his credentials.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so Mr. Wilder, can you just let us know you're familiar with the site and the application and the plans?
Yes, I am.
Okay, you prepared the plans?
Yes, I did.
All right. Could you describe the existing conditions for the board, please?
Sure. And I have one exhibit that I plan to reference this evening, which I think makes it a little bit easier.
Okay. I'll mark it as A1.
A1, for today's date.
This is an aerial exhibit prepared by my office dated 10/5/2022. So this just shows an aerial of the property. I've highlighted the site in yellow. So these are the 2 retail strip center buildings that are on the south side of the property. And this is the office building that we're referencing. Ms. Westlake had referenced a sort of irregularly shaped portion of the property. You sort of have a horseshoe in this area where it wraps around another adjacent property, lot 5. So what we're looking to do is drop a new property line separating the retail portion from the office portion. There are no improvements proposed as part of this development. And for what it's worth, when we prepared the subdivision plan, as this board may recall, there was a prior approval that was memorialized in 2021 for a slightly over 4,000 square foot addition. We've prepared all of our calculations, parking, coverages, assuming that that addition was constructed, as that would be the highest intensity of the development. So we've accounted for that in the subdivision. So if the addition was granted and the lots were subdivided, the variances that we are seeking this evening would be subsumed into that proposal.
So you can just highlight the line that
Yep.
we would like to draw for the board.
Again,
See it?
this little dotted line right here. So it's on the right side of lot 5, just sort of extending that line straight up.
And as a result of separating off the office building from the 2 shopping center buildings, that does have a little bit of an impact on the parking calculations. Is that correct?
It impacts it in that it sort of transitions where the parking falls. The number of parking spaces does not change, but it does create a surplus of parking on the office building and a shortfall of parking on the retail portion of the property.
And you have reviewed the staff reports from Mr. Rasimowitz and from CME. Ms. Aft is here from them.
I have.
Environmental Commission.
Yes.
Okay, and can we comply with all the recommendations set forth in those reports?
Yes, we take no issue with those recommendations.
Okay, and in particular, if just let the board know that we are more than happy to do the cross-access easement recommended, as well as the shared parking/parking easement recommended by the planner and the engineer. Do you have anything further to share with the board at this time?
I don't. From an engineering perspective, it's always nice to say nothing's proposed. So,
Okay, unless the board has questions for this witness, I'll move on to the planner.
Professionals, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Board's in receipt of November 3rd, 2022 engineering review letter. The applicant has agreed to meet all the comments in that review letter. They have asked for waivers on submission of stormwater reports and traffic impact statements. I would concur with the waiver that they're only striking a line for financing purposes and, there's no impact to the stormwater or traffic. They've agreed to the cross-access easements to be provided on both properties, and the proposed lot numbers need to be approved by the tax assessor. It's in my letter. I know there was some discrepancy on the plan as opposed to proposed
Right.
lot numbers.
Yeah, no, we'll do whatever the tax assessor says.
And that's really it. They've agreed to meet the comments in my letter.
Quick question, the subdivision would be filed via deed or plat?
Deed.
It would just need approval from the board engineer and board attorney if the board looks.
Correct. Yes, no question. Absolutely.
Could you just clarify for the board the parking spaces? I understand overall it meets, but
Sure.
which one, how many would be on one lot and how many?
So the shopping center or the retail portion requires 147 spaces and we'll have 126. The office will require 20 spaces and it will have 37.
And I'll wait for the variances with the board plan. That's about it. Thank you.
Sure.
Any questions from the board?
Okay, great. All right, next I'd like to call John Tykina as a professional planner.
John, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your full name and spell your last name, please.
My name is John Tykina. It's T as in Thomas, A-I, K as in Kelly, I-N-A. I'm the owner and principal of All Things Planning and Development in South Brunswick, New Jersey. I've been a licensed planner in the state since 1992. Just celebrated my 30th anniversary of getting my license in October. I've had the opportunity to testify before more than 75 boards around the state, including this one. Ironically, on the site right next door. So I'd really like to branch out a little bit in Monroe, maybe go a few other places. I seem to be stuck at this intersection.
Thank you. Unless anyone objects, I'll accept your credentials.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I'm here to talk about the application from a planning standpoint. As Matt said, it's a little strange in that we're not proposing anything other than drawing a line. But fortunately or unfortunately, from a planning standpoint, when we draw a line, we create some nonconformities, and at the same time, we also kind of switch some nonconformities. So things that used to be side yards and comply are now rear yards and don't comply. So we just get caught up in a little bit of that math. And we're also impacted because we have a somewhat of a oddly shaped property. So referring to A1, we have lot 801 at the corner of Appleworth Road and Prospect Plains, as we said, in the neighborhood commercial district. This property has been here for some time. It was constructed in the late 70s, early 80s. But it's hurt by two things. One is it's hurt by PSE&G came through and took 300 feet off. So that's why everything's kind of smushed against Appleworth Road. And the second thing is the utility authority has a pump station that's kind of carved out of the lot as well. Now, in lots of instances around around Middlesex County and certainly around Monroe, the utility lots and the overhead wires, they're in easements, they're not fees. So that's why we have the little bit of the inconsistency here, where we have a property that's 97% covered. It's literally paved from pillar to post, but that's because a big chunk of it was kind of taken out of action. So you've heard the description of the subdivision, and I'm here to talk about the variances that are generated by the irregular shape and the overall shallowness of the lot. So we have a bulk variance to have a lot area of 24,672 square feet for lot 803. I think, Mark, these are probably going to end up being 8011 and 8012. I think that's how they're going to end up.
803 and 804 might be.
Okay, but this is not going to be 801. There already is an 801. So
Leave that to the tax assessor.
all right, so whatever they're going to be, I'm going to refer to them as 801 and 803 because that's what they are on the exhibits. So we have the irregularly shaped lot for 803 at 24,000 square feet. Again, it's kind of tucked in the corner. It's big enough because it's paved from pillar to post, et cetera, to function and actually has more parking than it needs. But that is a variance condition. The remainder of the lot is conforming at approximately 3 acres, so not an issue there. There's a bulk variance to permit 167.51 feet of lot width on 801, and again, your lot width is measured at your narrowest. So again, it's an existing condition and it'll remain, but we do have, because we have the notch taken out, we only have 140 feet of frontage on lot 803. Absent that, we'd be able to draw a normal lot to be more than 200 feet wide. We have a bulk variance to permit a lot depth of 146.9 feet where 200 feet is required. Again, it's the depth of lot 803. It's all that we have. That does not affect 801 because the depth is actually measured from the narrower frontage. And then finally, we have a bulk variance to permit a rear yard setback of 25.9 feet on lot 801. That again would be a conforming side yard, which I think is actually what it should be. And then we have 31.1 feet for lot 803. And again, that was a side yard before. So when it was one lot, that's a side and it complies. When you subdivide it, it becomes a rear and it doesn't comply. We have a side yard variance of 7.7 feet, which is adjacent to lot 5. And then we're slightly deficient. And then we're conforming with the overall. So we have overall 2 side yards as being a conforming area. And again, that's because this as a side yard or a rear yard would comply. We have a bulk variance to permit maximum lot coverage of 98.9% for the lot 801 and 95.4% of lot 802. And again, that reflects the roughly 96% coverage of the overall lot. And then finally, we do have the parking variance to permit 125 spaces on lot 801, where 131 are required. So, but as we said, we have 125 on lot 801, and we have 37 on lot 803, where only 20 are required. So in those spaces, again, the extra spaces would be in the back, and again, they're proximate to the building on lot 801. We'll have full parking and access easements between, so there'll be no effect there. So in terms of the variances, as you know, the board needs to make a few findings that it relates to a specific piece of property and no other, that a purpose of the MLUL is advanced, that the variance can be granted without any substantial detriment to public good, that the benefits of granting these variances will outweigh any detriments, or that we have a hardship because of the irregular shape or the excessive shallowness of the property. So we have a few that are C1 and the rest are C2, where we have the benefits outweighing the detriment. And then finally, that the variance will not impair the intent and purpose of your zone plan, your zoning ordinance, or your master plan. And it was very, very nice of you to adopt a brand new master plan for me with the ink still wet. So it actually was very, very helpful. So this is obviously relates specifically to this property at 355 Applegarth. It's a unique property given its shape, given given the pieces that are carved out of it, and that the fact that the PSE&G and the utility authority are fee simple, not as easement. In terms of the MLUL, I think we promote two, and I will read them. I apologize. G, to provide sufficient space in appropriate locations for a variety of agricultural, residential, recreational, commercial, and industrial uses, and open space, both public and private, according to their respective environmental requirements in order to meet the needs of New Jersey citizens. And M, to encourage the coordination of various public and private procedures and activities shaping land development with view towards lessening the costs of such development and to the more efficient use of the land. So this site is certainly an appropriate location for commercial uses that serve the surrounding populations of residents and workers. The site is being used safely and efficiently, and the subdivision will allow the property owner to cost effectively allocate their resources and maintain the property. The second test under the C2 is the benefits outweigh any detriments. In this instance, the financing and operational flexibility afforded the separate lots outweigh any minimal detriment for the dimensional variances for all what are largely existing conditions. From a physical standpoint, nothing changes. And I would say accordingly that there is no detriment to be concerned about. Then finally, the negative criteria in terms of the ordinance and master plan. The proposal for subdivision of an existing commercial shopping center, it's not a noxious use. There'll be no apparent change to the general public here. In terms of the master plan, your master plan goals encourage appropriate commercial development in areas of population concentration and where existing infrastructure can accommodate. This is certainly an appropriate location with good population, both during the day in terms of the employees in the area and, of course, our residents with Rossmore across the street. The master plan goals further encourage infill development, and this site illustrates some of those issues to be considered when you're adopting your land use regulations for how you have to deal with these infill sites. The infill sites, close into town where your population are, they're going to be very different than, for example, what you've been experiencing when you're working on sites out on Route 33 or on Spotswood Englishtown Road. So this actually gives you a good sense of just what some of those issues you'll be facing. And then finally, we don't expect any site issues. The proposal merely creates two lots out of existing to separate the uses. The parking deficiency on 801 is made up for in 803, and we'll have full cross-access in between. So for these reasons, I think the board has the ability to make the appropriate findings, and I look forward to any questions.
About members of the board?
Question, Board. Just, sir, thank you for your nice presentation. Just for purposes of clarification, when you use the phrase cross-access for parking, does that mean that they can simply cross over one parking lot to get to the other parking lot? Or does that mean that if, for example, the retail area is overflowing because of a particular event, they will be allowed to use the parking spaces that are adjacent to the office building?
Both.
Okay.
So any parking space on both sites can be used by anybody for any reason, and they can drive back and forth and walk back and forth in between the two with no restriction.
I appreciate that clarification. Thank you.
Chairman, a quick question on my part, probably a planning question. Because you're subdividing the lot, in the future, if the owners decide these two separate lots, does the cross-access easement still continues to govern?
Yes.
If even the properties are owned by two separate owners?
Yes, that's why they would be recorded and run as the land. And that form will be approved by Mr. Convery, and the descriptions, et cetera, be approved by Mr. Rasimowitz.
Any other questions? I'll open it up to the public. Is there anyone from the public that would like to be heard? Hearing none, I'll close the public portion. And do we have a motion? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Pelori,
Yes.
Mr. Rothman,
Yes.
Ms. Polidoro,
Yes.
Ms. Brodsky, Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Mr. Patel,
Yes.
Councilman Van Zorif,
Yes.
Mr. Markel,
Yes.
Chairman Gaffney.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
thank you very much.
Laura, are we going for the record tonight? Or?
Just right to him. He's on a hold.
What's called
Reading
This is-
lies. What am I? Jokes.
Yes.
Haven't had to use that ruler yet, huh?
Oh, maybe.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to call the last application, PB 1247-22, and for purposes of full disclosure, in my practice, I've had several cases with Mr. Lonsky's firm over the years, particularly as partner Mr. Shipers. I don't believe it creates any issues unless there's any objection from members of the board or Mr. Lonsky.
Absolutely not.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We're here on the application that's being presented on behalf of Farrington Boulevard LLC, which is a company that recently purchased the property on the corner of Farrington Boulevard and Prineville Road, which I know that property has been before this board in the past with other proposals. We're here to seek preliminary and final major site plan approval to construct a contractor storage facility on the property. There is an existing stormwater management detention basin on the site and documented wetlands and conservation easements that constrain the developable area of the site. The applicant seeks several variances and design waivers, many of which are a result of the shape of the lot, and also the fact that it's a corner property, so you're measuring off of both ends. But we'll provide that detail for you. Here to testify this evening with me is Rich Hernandez, seated to my right, who is the owner of the LLC that's purchased the property, but he's also, as he'll testify, involved in the business that's going to be operated there. He and his 5 boys, who are also in the room, if you were wondering who all those gentlemen are that look like him. That's all of his sons. We have Lorelei Totten, our site engineer, traffic engineer, architect, and Ms. Totten's also going to provide planning testimony this evening. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Mr. Hernandez to be sworn in and to provide.
Hold the microphone. Swear to tell.
Just turn it on.
Okay,
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Say your full name and spell your last name, please.
Richard Hernandez, Hernandez.
Thank you. Rich, you're the owner of the applicant Farrington Boulevard LLC, correct?
Yes, I am.
And can you describe for the board your intended uses of the property?
We're going to put 2 family-run businesses in there. One is Tile Works by Rich, and that's a tile installation company for commercial properties and apartments. And the other one is Hernandez Landscaping, which is a lawn maintenance company that does lawn care in East Brunswick and Monroe.
And Rich, just because it's, this I know will come up, but can you describe your hours of operation, days of operation, number of employees for each of those 2 businesses?
So the tile company has me and my 4 sons, and then my other son runs the landscaping part of the business, and the 3 employees. We have our operation hours are Monday through Friday, 7 to 5, and Saturday, 7 to 1.
And with respect to the landscaping business, again, because it comes up often, mulch, stones, any outdoor storage or any materials?
There will be no bulk storage there. It's strictly to park 2 trucks and trailers and keep our lawnmowers inside, and the tile part just stores tile and thin set to do tile installations on apartment complexes.
So, and both of those businesses are currently operating in Monroe?
Both are run in Monroe now at M&R Warehousing at 242 Possum Hollow Road. And it's only for our vans and our trucks and trailers, and everything leaves.
And can you talk to or let the board know the types of deliveries that the businesses receive and how often they receive them?
So the landscaping business gets no deliveries over there. Everything is picked up by our trucks and then brought to the job sites. The tile part, we have box trucks from Dow and MMSI. They're like 24 footers. They come and deliver bulk pallets, and then we break it down in our warehouse and then bring them to the job sites. We don't have any of our subcontractors come to the warehouse. Everything is right to the job sites. The only people that come to our warehouse are my sons and my wife and me. And once in a blue moon, we might get a builder, a project manager or something like that, but not too many people.
It's not a retail business.
No, not a retail business, only commercial and apartment complexes, big developments. Like Monroe 33, we did that job. That's the kind of work we do.
There was also a comment, which I'm going to ask you to address, relating to the request that you get association approval for the improvements and for access to the on-site stormwater management system that's there. Did you have an opportunity to do that?
Yes, I called the previous owner, Chris Clemsworth, I think his name is, and I talked to him, and he was going to send Lorelei a letter that everything was okay with the association.
The association has responsibility for maintaining the basin that's on site, correct?
Correct.
And you're now a member of that association.
Yes, I am.
I have nothing further for Mr. Nan.
Okay.
From the board?
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question. To clarify, the property is going to be used as a warehouse and an office, right? There's not going to be any outdoor storage of any landscaping, planting, mulch, or anything of that sort?
No bulk storage.
Okay. And could you describe, I'm sorry, you did say how many employees? Could you give us a number as a...
I have me and my 5 sons and 3 landscaping employees.
And your wife sometimes. I know that.
Yes. She's busy watching the grandkids, so very little at the warehouse anymore.
So about 10 employees on the property?
Yes.
Okay. And sorry, is the current plan as it was presented, the contractor's office and the warehouse portion and the office area, since these are 2 businesses, is there going to be any subdivision, like interior subdivision? Or is that all?
No, it's a family-run business. We're all together in one office.
Okay.
That's how we are now too at 242 Possum Hollow.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. For the landscaping business, you agreed as a condition that there'll be no outdoor storage of any materials or bulk material.
Absolutely.
And so can you just describe the landscape business again, exactly what you're doing then if you're not bringing, materials and storing them outside? What?
Well, it's a lawn maintenance, so what we do is just have lawnmowers there, and then if we need mulch or stone, it goes in the back of our dump trucks, and then we bring it to the job site. We never bring nothing or pick anything up. We don't even have a backhoe or a skid steer to pick that stuff up.
So mulch is not stored on the site?
Absolutely not.
Or in the building?
Nope.
Okay. I have nothing further.
Oh, I'm sorry, just because Mark asked a question, it reminded me of. Could you describe, are there going to be any on-site vehicles stored on the property?
On stuff. Say that
Yeah,
again?
like,
Oh, yes, there is 4 vans for the tile business, plus 1 rack body, which is a truck that will hold 8 pallets, so we can put it on the truck and then bring it to the job sites. And then the landscaping business has 2 truck and trailers. So a dump truck plus a trailer to put landscaping equipment in.
okay. And we'll get to, but I guess there'll be some parking questions on that, but we'll get to that later. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, when you go out for lawn mowing and lawn services, you're going to have a pickup truck with an extended trailer with the lawn mowing equipment and things like that, correct?
Correct.
Have you looked at the turning radius onto Greenville Road to make sure that it's not approaching into the oncoming traffic?
Yes, and my traffic person that's here will clarify all that for me. I'll talk about tile though.
Good lead-in, I like that.
Any other questions from the board?
My only comment is I'm looking for issues such as noise or interference or traffic. I'm not seeing them.
Thank you.
Please proceed.
Thank you.
All his 5 boys are here. If you have any other questions for them, I'm sure they're looking forward to answering.
That's what he's referring to about the noise.
Yeah,
Yes, that was it.
Okay, my next witness, you can stay here too. Lorelei? So again, Lorelei is going to be testifying both as an engineer and as a planner. And if the board would prefer, I could have her give her planning testimony after our traffic engineer and our architect have spoken.
Whatever you prefer, wherever it's easy.
How many exhibits do you have?
Lorelei, are you talking on record right now? Thank you. I'm not talking into the mic either.
Well, let's swear you in before you testify. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Lorelei. Okay.
Have you ever appeared before this board in the past? Yes, kidding. So we accept it.
Yes, I have.
We've seen her at
We've seen her
least
a
once
few
or twice, yeah.
Yes. Do you want me to put my credentials on the
Please,
record?
briefly.
Yes, I graduated from Lehigh University in 1977 with a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering. This one works better? Yes, it does. And I passed my professional engineering license in 1983 and obtained my planning license in 1986. I have worked for 6 different firms over the years, all in engineering. The last one being Crest Engineering Associates, where I am a principal and have been for, I think, 29 years now. And I have appeared before this board and numerous other boards in Middlesex, Monmouth, and other counties of New Jersey.
Chairman, I propose we accept her credentials.
I agree. Thank you.
Okay, so I do have one exhibit that's not submitted, and that is this plan, which is a rendering of the landscape plan.
I'm going to mark it A1.
And I'm
Please
sure
put
it's dated
today's-
today.
Put today's date as well.
I'll put today's date on it, 11/30/2022.
The other plans are the paper set that we submitted to the board. Do you want them marked, or are they
I don't
already an
think it's
exhibit?
necessary. If you're representing that it's exactly what was already turned into the board, I think that it's acceptable.
Yes, it is. All right. Can't do this by memory anymore.
Oh. Yeah.
Okay, so the site is known as Lot 2.08, Block 8, 2.09, Block 8. It is located on Prineville Road, which is Jamesburg Prineville Road, which is along the bottom of Exhibit A1, and also Farrington Boulevard, which is along the right side of the Exhibit A1. It is a corner lot. It contains wetlands. It contains wetlands within wetlands easements, which on my exhibit you can't see very well, but you could if you looked at the existing conditions plan. The lot contains about it contains 7 acres, and about 2.78 of that acres is outside of the wetlands conservation easements. And it's the wetlands and buffers whenever I say wetlands. Let's see. It's located behind it, up to the top of the sheet, is located the Monroe Tennis Center. Across the street, almost directly, this is the driveway, one of the driveways to it that you can see on this exhibit, is the Make-A-Wish. It's located in the south central portion, well, the central part of the southern part of Monroe Township. It was created, the lot itself was created as part of a 4-lot subdivision that received approval in 2000, and the plat was filed in 2005, I believe. There's the tennis center, which I always call it, even though it's the Monroe Sports Center, is located on lot 2.10 to the top of the exhibit. To my side of the exhibit, or the left of the exhibit, where the black line is, that's the border with lot 2.14, also part of the Riverside Center subdivision. And then Farrington Boulevard separates the property from, I think it's 2.12 on the other side, another lot of the Riverside Center subdivision, which between Millstone and Monroe contains about 15 lots. Let's see. As noted previously, there is an association for Riverside Center, which maintains the roads as well as the detention basin and 3 other detention basins within the project, and the access easement, which is also a drainage easement to the east of the existing detention basin, which you can see in blue on the site. With regard to existing conditions, as already noted, there is an existing detention basin that was constructed in around 2009. It was constructed simultaneously with the construction of the Monroe Tennis Center. This detention basin was designed as a semi-regional basin to take care of both of these lots. Let's see what else. There's an access easement located at the eastern side of the property that is split over the property line. You can see perhaps the black line, which is the border between lot 2.10, the Monroe Tennis Center, and 2.09, our subject property. There is an easement around that, which has recently been enlarged. I'm not 100% sure if it was filed yet, but it's been enlarged to provide better ability for the association to maintain both the easement and the drainage basin, so they could get into the drainage basin. The property is quite flat. There's about 4 contours on it. It slopes generally towards the north and a little to the east, and not so much down to Prineville. The wetlands encumber the site all along the frontage, except for a little space right next to the detention basin, in front of the detention basin, and another little space over, right in this area, which is where the septic system would be located. With regard to the proposal, the building is 2,880 square feet of office on 2 floors, split evenly, and the storage space referenced previously of 11,000 square feet. And as noted, it's office and contractor storage. There's parking facilities, which I'll describe, stormwater management, landscaping, lighting. The utilities, there is gas and electric and telecommunications utilities in Farrington Boulevard. There are also dry water and sewer lines. This area has no water or sewer yet, so it will be serviced by a septic system and well water. The septic system, we've already conducted test pits, and it's suitable for a septic system, which would be located to the north of the property in a little area between wetlands. Let's see, make sure I get everything here. Okay. Solid waste management, there is a proposed dumpster enclosure that will hold a dumpster for trash as well as for recycling. And behind it is landscaping as well as a fence. A fence goes along the rear of this parking area to also help buffer it from the street. Access and parking, I spoke about the access. This lot has 2 frontages on it, and the actual access is at the back of the lesser of the 2 roads, Prineville, Prineville being what I would consider a more major road than Farrington Boulevard. And it's going to be extended. You can see where the existing access ends because it's in light gray, and you can see the proposed pavement that is in brown on this site, and the proposed building is in orange. There's a little bit of sidewalk. So access is through this. This property is long and narrow, and it's much longer than it is wide, I should say. So it is narrow. There's a little pinch point right here. So the parking is linear along the edge of the property, and it does abut up against the building in the front. Which it's supposed to be 30 feet away, but due to the constraints of the site, putting it 30 feet away was not possible. Plus, it provides the handicap space area to be closest to the entrance. There is proposed to be a EV. It's not shown on the plans right now. I understand that Mr. Hernandez's son, one of them, does drive an electric car, so it's most appropriate as well. Let's see, parking easement. Okay, with regard to the parking, we have a flexible parking arrangement here, meaning that we have a number of sizes of parking spaces to accommodate the various size vehicles that Mr. Hernandez and his sons will be using. There are 5 30-foot deep spaces. There are 2 over on the side to the north. There are 2 12.5-foot wide spaces in front of each of the doors, and there is a space between the doors. So that allows for 2 spaces for loading. I believe that the 12.5 are most appropriate, but depending on the type of loading or unloading that's being done, some of these other spaces might be appropriate as well, which is why they're not specifically marked on the plan, because it gives more flexibility to the plan. There are also a number of standard spaces, meaning they're either 18 or 20 feet deep, and they are 10 feet wide. The ones that back up to landscaping areas are 18 feet deep because it saves on impervious cover. Not that we could have made them a little deeper, there's room, but it does save on a little impervious cover, and the front of the cars can go over the landscaping, which is part of the green design or a best management practice that we're using to minimize the amount of pavement. Let's see. So that's various sizes and the flexibility of the parking. There's one more area, which is a tractor trailer or a truck turnaround area, or could be a parking space for a tractor trailer. I believe Mr. Hernandez testified that he gets a large truck once in a great while, but not too frequently. So we made accommodations for that truck to be able to come in and turn around and get back out again. Let's see. Okay, there are signs. There will be 3 signs. One sign will be on the facade, and we're asking for 2 monument signs, one on each of the corners of the property along Farrington. The first one along Jamesburg, Farrington, and Jamesburg, Perrine, and Farrington. We're proposing it to be a monument sign, but it's going to list both the Monroe Sports Center as well as this business, Tile Works. And we've already had a meeting with the owner of Monroe Sports Center, and he's agreeable to do that. And this suggestion, which was a very good suggestion, was made by Mr. Razmowitz as a possibility because of 2 signs. The second, and it's because it's on a corner property, and guiding people into both the Monroe Tennis Center and to this facility, as well as putting a monument sign on the corner of the access drive. That one would be strictly for this facility and would have the street number and the name of the name of the facility on it so that someone could find it easily. So that's why we're proposing 2 signs, and I know the ordinance only allows 1. Neither one is as large as the ordinance would permit a single sign to be. And I believe the architect has them on his plan so he can describe those signs and how, because this is the first building, that they coordinate with the building. With regard to stormwater, as was mentioned before, there's an existing stormwater basin. I said it was a semi-regional basin. It was actually designed to handle 75% of this lot being impervious, which would equate to about 1.9 plus or minus square acres. But we're only have pervious covering just under an acre. So this basin has plenty of capacity to handle this development, which it was designed to do. One of the new requirements for stormwater management is if you have a wet pond, it needs to have a secondary use, such as irrigation. And we do propose, it's not on the plan right now, but we do propose to do at least some of the irrigation on the site from the pond. And the pond, as I said, was constructed in around 2009, and it has never dried out. It's in an area, water comes up into it, so plus what flows into it. So it's a good pond. The rest of the stormwater management consists of porous pavement in 2 or 3 different areas in the parking lot. And the purpose of the porous pavement is to provide water quality. Originally, the basin was supposed to provide water quality, but the newer regulations don't want you to do that. So in essence, this site's going to get a double water quality because it will get what the basin gives it, plus just water falling through porous pavement provides water quality. There's been any number of studies, and if anybody here is interested in looking more into it, then the University of New Hampshire has done extensive studies on porous pavement and in cold weather conditions, which you might be concerned about. So the water falls through the porous pavement, there's stone underneath, and we've done the soils testing required to show that there's adequate permeability underneath the stone at the layer of infiltration. And that will also provide the groundwater recharge that is required by the regulations. So we get water quality and we get groundwater recharge underneath the pavement, which is pretty efficient, I think. The other part about porous pavement is the maintenance consists of using the proper de-icing type of, you're not supposed to use calcium carbonate, salt. You have to use a slightly different chemical to protect any concrete pavement. And it also needs to be vacuumed a few times a year in order to keep the pores in the pavement open. And porous pavement is nothing more than regular pavement with the fines taken out, if nobody's had the chance to look into that at this point. So that's what our BMP is. And we think it will work very well. It meets all the requirements. We meet the total suspended solids removal rate of 80%. The basin was designed to meet all the cutbacks, and it will be more than that because we're not putting down as much impervious cover as the design was for. And we meet groundwater recharge, and we will be, I think we actually already did submit to soil erosion sediment control permit, and I believe it was granted. So we already have that in place. And finally, the DRCC has reviewed this plan. They have no more technical comments on our plan. So they also feel the stormwater management is sufficient. So with that, I believe that we've provided a good stormwater management plan. And there might be a few housekeeping things that are to do that are in Mr. Rasmowitz's letter, which we will do. We will provide a operation and maintenance manual so that Mr. Hernandez knows how to take care of it. And for the vacuuming, He vacuums up leaves, so he's got a big vacuum that he can use. Not too many clients can say that I know of. So I think that's pretty nice. Let's see. Landscaping. So as you can see from this plan, we're showing a lot of landscaping around the front of the property in the areas where we can. This area where it looks like there's nothing, that's because it's the wetlands or the wetlands buffer. So we provided it to soften the look of Mr. Radosti's very nice looking building, as you will come to find when you see his presentation. And as I said, we have a fence in this area to further buffer the street, the people on the street from the parking areas on this. The other parking areas are buffered by the detention basin and pretty far from the street. So we feel that the landscaping is adequate. It's a number of different sizes and shapes, and I can go through the list for you, but they are on the plan, varieties of plants. And I don't remember seeing, we haven't gotten shade tree comments yet, but hopefully they agree with our selections. There's some existing landscaping along the street, some street trees that were installed as part of that major subdivision. And what we don't show on this plan are the existing landscaping around the detention basin. So what we would propose to do, because there was a concern about disrupting that landscaping, is to show the limits of that landscaping on the basin. And we can provide the plan, because we did it, that was approved as part of this subdivision years ago. And we would be very happy to work with Mr. Resimot's office on that existing protection of that existing landscaping. With regard to lighting, there are 7 pole-mounted lights, one up on the corner, a couple around the parking spaces, one across from the building, another one down at the end, and there's 4 building-mounted lights that provide adequate light. And I did note that there was a concern about the whiteness of the light. So white light is 5,000, that's sunlight white. And 2,700 is soft light, Kelvin, soft light that you might have in your living room. And there's a recommendation to reduce it to from, I don't know where it actually is, but it's higher than 3,000 to reduce that. And I would like to work with Mr. Rasmussen to come up with the best plan to provide lighting. The other part of this is that Mr. Hernandez's hours don't go that much past dark as a rule. Right, just in the winter at this time of year. So we can come up with a plan to lower the lighting, as I think the planner's letter mentioned, to a security level at some point in the evening, a couple of hours after the working hours are done. So, and we can be happy to put all that on the plan as requested. Let's see. And I think I covered most of the engineering issues, or at least a description of the engineering issues. I tried to cover a number of the comments in the letters. I'd be happy to answer any questions on the engineering.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe Lorelei agreed to meet all the comments in my November 18th, 2022 review.
Do we have to put the details of the signs on our engineering plans if they're on the architectural plans? It's a minor little thing. Can work it out.
I have no problem with that as long as they're provided on the architectural.
They are. You will. You'll see that they are.
Microphone?
The association, sorry. There was an issue raised in the engineer's report, I believe it was the engineer's report, requesting a fence be placed around the detention basin. But the issue with that is that the association is responsible for the maintenance. So that would be an item for them to be involved in rather than the applicant itself. And Laura, I think this was a prior comment, if you might be able to fill the board in with respect to that on our prior application.
Yes, I think it was agreed to put a fence around it with a gate in it at that time.
So is there a fence proposed or?
Not yet. We can add it.
Okay.
But it's an association responsibility.
Is there safety ledges that exist on the basin?
Is there a side?
Safety
Yes.
ledges?
Yes, there are. Yes, there are.
Yeah, and it's surrounded by landscaping now.
So just to clarify, are you agreeing to install a fence, or you're saying that
We
the
would
other,
prefer
you know-
not to, but we will if everybody feels it's a safety issue. I mean, this isn't a place where there's going to be children. That's usually the issue.
You know, Mr. Chairman, safety ledges are in place. The basin exists. It's been functioning under the other application. I'm comfortable with it based on the testimony provided. And
Thank you.
if I continue with a few more comments. With regard to the public, does the public come to this facility? Is it a retail operation, or is it only your employees?
No, it's not open to the public. Once in a while, I'll have one of my builders show up to select for a development, but it's really not open to homeowners to come and pick out tile.
So with regard to the signage, I understand the sign up by the road in the corner, you have signage on the building. Why the additional signage? You're permitted one sign, now you're providing 2 freestanding signs. So why is that needed if public is not coming? And I'm sure our planner will comment more on it.
Well, from time to time, they have deliveries from, tile manufacturers. That would be the main reason.
What is the size of that sign that's at the entrance driveway?
They're both the same size, and I forget how big they are. Steve Radosti can give you that information.
So we'll get into that with the architect then.
That would be perfect.
I have no problem with the parking space sizes. Again, the public's not coming here. They do meet the ordinance on some of the spaces. They exceed it on many of the spaces because that's their operation and they need that. There's some areas where the sidewalks are meeting the curb lines on radiuses. You need to meet ADA requirements. I believe accessible ramps may be needed in a couple locations that aren't clear on the plans.
Sure, we can review that and add those. I forgot to mention that there is a new sidewalk proposed from the corner of Farrington along the access drive, and it comes down and connects in with the facility.
Okay, so we'll look at that, and wherever you need an accessible
Yes.
ramp, it'll be provided. And nothing further at this time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is referring to CME letter, which is dated November 14th, 2022. Couple of quick questions. Regarding landscaping, I believe we had certain suggestions and comments in our letter. I was just wondering, are you proposing to comply with those? That was on page 8 of the letter.
I apologize that I missed that when I was reviewing everything today.
Like, for example, under the street trees, I think one of the recommendation was to the southern side, maybe one more street tree can be added just before the side triangle easement. And then there was certain recommendation regarding the deer-resistant planting as well as, ornamental grasses and so on and so forth.
Well, I would be very happy to have my person who knows all about that speak with your office to come up with the best plan.
We're fortunate to be in the landscaping business.
Yeah.
You can find some ornamental grasses, right?
Okay, so you are proposing to work with us to comply
Yes,
with that
absolutely.
In terms of lighting, thank you for clarifying that, the dimming requirement, as well as we did have a couple of other additional items we needed with the lighting. Would you be, is there anything, I should just shorten this thing. Is there anything in our letter that you're not willing to comply with overall?
I think everything is fine.
Okay. Going back to the signage, and Mr. Razmovich brought up a good point. To clarify, there is an existing monument sign. Is that coming out?
Existing monument sign, you
There is
mean?
an existing sign, and then there are two proposed signs, right? Right at the
yes.
Jamesburg, Perrinville.
There is a sign here. I don't consider it a monument. It's up on posts for Monroe Sports Center. Is that the one you're?
Yeah.
Yes, that would be replaced by a sign that mentioned both of the facilities.
Okay, that's what I wanted to clarify.
Yes.
As we had discussed at the TRC. In terms of the number of signs, I would agree with our board engineer if something can be worked out, especially because if the same people are coming to the site, there is a wall sign indicating where the property is located, as well as, there's one main sign as at the intersection of Jamesburg, Perrinville Road, that's kind of showing where to go. But we can discuss that more during the variance requirement if needed. In terms of the parking area, from what I gathered in the testimony, and please correct me if I'm wrong, so there would be 7 type of trucks or vans that would be on the property, taking up at least 7 spaces on the property. And is it in your professional opinion that despite that, there is enough parking as well as loading space on the property to meet the ordinance requirement?
Yes, a lot of the vehicles that are driven by the employees will leave, so it'll be an exchange. And because there's little public that comes to the site, there's quite a few more spaces than are actually needed. So, I mean, if 7 people came and parked in 7 of the parking spaces, say along here, along the detention basin, and they picked up their vehicles from the other spaces, it'd be an even swap.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further, Chairman. Thank you.
Any questions from the member of the board?
Just a quick one.
I have one question, if I could. My colleague, Mr. Riggs, is not here this evening, so he would want to know where the warehouse is located adjacent to Jamesburg, Perrineville Road. If someone were to travel up Perrineville, would the warehouse be visible, or do you have enough landscaping in between that the building would not really be visible?
So the building will be visible. It will be softened by the landscaping, but it's also an attractive building. It's not, doesn't look like just a metal warehouse. It has block on the lower part, and
We'll hear that from the other.
yes, you will.
expert.
Yes,
But I know he's always big on those berms,
yes.
blocking it, so it's not
So
offensive.
as I noted, the buffer and conservation easement ends where I'm pointing on the plan. And then, of course, the basin is not too far away. So we've tried to mass these trees along these property lines, and the wetlands are slowly transforming from that was farmed to be
There's
like
trees on
open
the south
space.
side too, right? By the building? Or is that something else?
You mean
Yeah.
over in this area? That's all trees.
Yeah.
Yeah, trees and shrubs. Doesn't totally hide the building, but it will enhance it, right? There is no berm in here because it's a kind of narrow space, but it does have a lot of landscaping. And like I said, the area of wetlands is slowly growing up, as you can probably see when you walk by. I'm sorry I'm not looking down this way very often. My apologies. So I think when you see what the building looks like with the landscaping, it will be very nice. And for a person driving along the road right in front of the building, your eye goes up and you won't see anything beyond the building as well, which will be further described to you shortly.
See what we got. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chairman, a very quick question, Laurie. You talked about the soil erosion and sediment control probably have the permit. Did you get the DEP permit approved it yet?
A DEP, we don't need any DEP
Water
permits.
management?
Oh, are you talking about the permit that goes along with the soil erosion? You usually don't do that till just before you get ready to construct.
No, Terry grabbed my berm question ahead of me, so we're covered.
Anybody else have a question? Anybody from the public have a question? Hearing none?
Chairman?
Go.
Just to, pick up where the councilman and Mr. Rothman left off on berming and landscaping, you'd be agreeable to provide supplemental landscaping upon installation and inspection by our board planner and my office as well? If there's some gaps that we could fill in and
Yes.
sort of enhance that buffer
That's-
area, since you're not putting a berm in and, you're looking for that variance.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. you can
I
call-
was going to call my traffic expert next, but it seems like the architect is
Good
what we're all looking for, so I'll call the architect first. Steve?
Exactly.
Okay, we'd like to swear you in. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. State your full name and spell your last name.
R-A-D-O-S-T-I. Just hold it until the light comes on.
RADOSTI.
And can you give your credentials?
Yes, I'm a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey. I graduated from New Jersey Institute of Technology in 1992 with a Bachelor of Architecture. I've been licensed since 1996 in New Jersey. I'm a principal at, Perez and Radasti Architects for the last 20 or so years. I've presented in front of dozens of boards throughout the state of New Jersey. I've not presented in front of this board. However, I presented in neighboring towns like Millstone, Cranberry, East Windsor, East Brunswick, Manalapan, Marlborough, many other close towns.
Thank you. Unless there's any objections, I'll accept your credentials.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, what was yours?
Well, I have a total of 4 boards. Should I?
Were these already submitted or are they?
Two of them were colorized versions of what was already submitted, and the other 2 are new, completely new exhibits.
Why don't we just mark all 4?
Okay.
You had A1 already.
SK 2.1, static elevation, and data 6.8.22 on it. Have the SK 1.1, colorized version of the floor plans that were previously submitted. Date on those drawings are also 6.8.22. I have a new exhibit labeled SK 3.1. This is a section and monument sign, and this drawing is dated 11/28/22. That'll be A3. And then finally, I have an unnamed board, but new exhibit, and these are sample photos of buildings using flip-based plot. The market on the
Yes, A5.
A5.
So the proposed building is an office storage building for the applicant. Consists of 2,880 square feet of office, 2 levels. And 11,000 square feet of contractor storage.
The mic he's speaking to is not working.
One. Try the cord at one.
This one works. Okay, let's try that. Is this better? Yeah. Okay. All right, let me start over here. It consists of 2,880 square feet of office on 2 levels and 11,000 square feet of contractor storage on 1 level for a total of 13,880 square feet. The building is non-combustible construction made of steel and concrete construction and is approximately 31 feet tall to its peak. The majority of the building is clad in pre-finished insulated metal panels over a split-face block water table of approximately 6 feet in height. The water table is topped with a precast concrete cap. The office portion of the building is clad in a tile or stone veneer to allude to the type of business that is inside and to draw attention to the entry area. This office area includes lots of large windows to allow natural light into the space. The upper windows include metal shading devices to keep down glare and solar heat gain in the interior space. The front entrance is punctuated by a large cantilevered metal canopy that coordinates with the metal shading devices. And the storage space includes clear story windows up high to allow natural light into the storage area. And these windows go around the perimeter of the building. The building has a pitched standing seam metal roof, and all the facades of the building are color coordinated with varying shades of gray. On the west facade of the building, we propose backlit LED aluminum signage of 20 square feet. This is approximately 1'4" by 15 feet long. So this is sheet SK 3.1. A3. So in addition to the building mounted signs, we're proposing 2 monument signs. Both of these signs are the same size and materials. Each sign is 6 foot in height by 8 feet long and shall be 46.75 square feet. So sign number 1 includes a 6 foot high, non-internally illuminated, 6 inch high, non-internally illuminated street address up in the upper right-hand corner here. And then it also includes a 3'4" high by 5 foot long internally illuminated sign box. This would be the sign that would say Tile Works by Rich and Sons. The materials are split face block and tile to coordinate with the look of the building. Sign number 2 is of the same overall size and materials as sign number 1. However, sign number 2 will include a 3'4" high but 7 foot long internally illuminated sign box that includes a sign for the applicant as well as a sign for the neighboring Monroe Tennis, Basketball, and Sports Center. As requested at the TRC meeting, I also have on the sheet a scale section cutting through the site. If you see this little tiny car right here, this is a pretty small scale. It's a 1 inch is equal, 1/32 of an inch is equal to a foot. So from the car on the road, if you're immediately in front of the building and you looked up towards the building, if you're within the width of the building itself would block the view of the Monroe Tennis, Basketball, and Sports Center, which is shown here in the back. So it's a scale section showing that. So I believe that our building does meet the requirements of the building design standards of section 108-12.3. Most of our exterior materials are mentioned in paragraph E1. However, the split face block isn't specifically mentioned. However, I feel that the dark gray split face block does coordinate well with the design building. It adds a water table that visually anchors the building to the site. The horizontal lines of this rough face of the block contrast nicely with the smooth vertical metal panels to create visual interest on the building. The block is also functional in nature, and that it will provide a strong wall finish at the lower portion of the warehouse that can stand up to more abuse than the metal panels, and that way it won't get dented or damaged from the inside of the building. I have here some photos of split face block on some other buildings. And this is exhibit A5 with today's date. And I just wanted to show that, split face block, if used correctly, can be an attractive material. Here it is shown as a water table. It's actually a dark block, kind of similar to ours, and it's shown in contrast with a smooth material. I think that contrast will work nicely on our building and also provide some function. This split face block is pretty similar to our color also, and it's shown there with gray metal panels, and I think it makes a nice contrast there too. So I think it's the ideal material for this. So I think that concludes my presentation.
You're able to see what he,
I'm going to turn that.
or just hop the other side. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, for the professionals, any questions?
Quick question. Could you again clarify where the wall sign would be on the elevation?
Yes, of course. So I have one wall sign, and it's on the west elevation, and it's facing Jamesburg Prineville Road.
Yeah.
So as you go down the street, you would see it here. It's a small sign. It's 20 square feet in size.
And that's also, I guess, backlit LED lighting?
That is backlit aluminum letters, yes.
So coming back to the point, I think you've heard the discussion tonight. In your professional opinion, given that there is the monument sign that's being proposed at the intersection of Jamesburg, Prineville, as well as there's the wall sign, which is lit, would that be an identifiable enough, signs for anybody accessing the property?
Well, I mean, this sign would be the sign located at the corner, and it has a street numeral, so it would be helpful for people for navigation purposes to see the street address as well as emergency vehicles. It would also have the name of the business, and then once you turn onto Farrington, at the next intersection, there's the second monument sign. This monument sign helps wayfinding for Monroe Tennis, Basketball, and Sports Center, as well as knowing that you would turn in there for the Tile Works project.
Okay. The number 128, that is not lit, right?
I just have 123 because I don't know the exact street address yet.
Okay. That's not lit.
No, that is not lit.
Okay. I would defer to the board. However, if the purposes are met with two signs, I would recommend that. In terms of the building materials, thank you for clarifying that. Are there any green building design materials being proposed?
There would be green building materials, yes. I mean, so the building would use some recycled materials, use some materials that are produced within 500 miles of the site. There would be LED lighting. There would low-E glass. We have solar shading devices over the windows on the upper floors. We have we're going to have a efficient HVAC system. I mean, there'll be several items.
Okay. Thank you. Where would the mechanical system of the HVAC system be located on the property?
So in the warehouse itself, that area is going to have heaters inside the building itself.
Okay.
And then there will be heat and air conditioning in the offices, and there would be probably a ground-mounted small unit in the rear of the property. You know, where's that in relation? Oops. So somewhere along this area here. The office area is, you know, relatively small. It's the size of, you know, of a house, so it would be just a small condensing unit.
Is it not that condenser unit, those two squares that are
Oh, I'm sorry,
shown?
right, not
Yeah.
here.
I would
Thank
just
you.
recommend if your office or the engineer's office works with us, because that would be facing the Jamesburg Prineville Road, if some kind of landscaping or anything can be provided around that.
Yes, we work with you on that.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
So with regard to the signage, so let me understand, with both names on the sign is going to be at the intersection of Prineville and Barrington? It'll have both names, the Tile Works and the Tennis Center? Or Sports Center?
Yeah, so the one with the one would be on the intersection of Farrington and Prineville, and then the other sign would be on
No,
Farrington, correct?
I think it's the other way.
It's the other one?
The sign with two names on it is on the corner of Prineville Road, and the other one's at the access point.
Yeah.
As you come off of Farrington to go on to into the driveway.
Okay, so let's start with the one on Farrington and Prineville with both names on it.
Yes.
Is that area of the sign lit up?
Yes, that's correct. That is internally illuminated.
So I'm concerned with glare from that light. You're at the intersection and the brightness of that. It's a very large area. I think you said it's 7 foot by 3 foot or thereabouts.
Yeah, it's 7 foot by 3 foot
And I
4.
understand it meets the zoning. It is highway development zoning. However, it's Prineville Road. You're right at the intersection. Can you tell me about the lighting inside? How bright it is? Is there going to be an impact on the cars that trying to
Well,
make the turn?
it would be an LED, internal. It would be aluminum sign box with acrylic face, and it would be LED lighting, internally lit.
And so again, I'm just concerned with how bright that's going to be at the intersection, as well as the other sign. Again, the single business sign at the other corner, which looks a little bit closer to the intersection there. Same thing, the brightness of that area. It's a very large sign. Do we need that large of a sign for a business that the public is not coming to?
The public will be coming to the tennis center, of course.
Understood. Does the sports center have a sign with their own name on it at the other driveway entrance off of Farrington?
That question.
Just to clarify, I just asked my client whether or not sign that only reflects Tile Works, the second sign as we've been describing it, that does not have to be internally illuminated. Because we appreciate what you're saying. As far as the other sign, to the extent that you want to work with our engineer or professionals to make sure that the lighting isn't too bright, we don't have a problem with that. We can make that a condition that it satisfies the engineer in that regard. But I did want to address one point, and that was the sign on the building, which is on Prineville Road or facing Prineville Road. If you're making a delivery and you're coming from Route 33, where a lot of the truck traffic comes through, up Prineville Road, by the time you see that sign, you're already past the building. And that's why having the sign in the corner makes more sense. That's where the traffic would be turning in to the facility. And of course, the signs are for traffic purposes.
think the relation with that was then that's why the second sign that we're calling the second sign, what is that doing if this sign is going to alert truck drivers?
Just directing you, it's directing you into the roadway, the actual roadway into the building.
So that, I don't believe the sports center has a sign at that intersection. So would they go on this sign as well, on a second sign, or?
I thought they had a sign there on the other end. They have a big sign.
The sports center has a big sign on their building. It's almost half of the side of the building. If you ever go down there, but they probably don't need a little sign, monument sign, because it's literally half their building is a sign.
Didn't you say one of these signs was replacing their sign on the road? Corner sign?
It may be easier on this A1. Again, just to clarify, so on this corner, there's an existing sign that I understand may not have been previously approved. And so the tennis center is being asked to remove that sign, which the sign that we're proposing would replace that sign and would be on this corner. The tennis center has their signage on the building, so it's very easy to see where they are from Farrington. But because of the vegetation surrounding the existing basin, for a vehicle coming up Farrington to know to turn and to get to Tile Works, that's why that second sign is being proposed on the corner of the access road in Farrington. So a delivery vehicle would know how to go to get to the facility. And that was the purpose behind having two signs there. Again, the second sign is what I was referring to with the access road. If it makes more sense and the board prefers it, that does not have to be internally illuminated.
Thank you for clarifying. You know, from my standpoint, I understand the sign at the intersection of Farrington and Prineville. It'll have both businesses on it. It makes sense. They have an illegal sign there now. You're not seeking any variance for setback from the property lines, are you, for the signage?
No.
Okay. However, the other one at the, call it the driveway entrance off of Farrington, again, it looks close to the intersection, close to the curb lines. I appreciate you not eliminating the illumination as you agreed to. Again, it just seems like a very large sign to have there, and my concern is, sight triangle for the people at that intersection.
Size?
If I understand what your question is, just want to make sure that. My bad. So I believe that this engineering drawing shows the site triangle, and you'll see that the sign sits behind it. So it's not interfering with that. And I just want to point out with respect to the second sign again, that truck traffic also comes the other way into the site. So it's not only people coming from Prineville Road, but coming from, I'll call it the Amazon warehouse, the other end of Route 33 down Farrington, that would be the first sign that they see for Tile Works to be able to turn into the driveway. So we're trying to facilitate traffic going in each direction.
Well, I still think it's close to that intersection and could be pulled back some. As far as truck traffic coming from the other way, I believe there's a truck restriction from trucks coming out of the warehouse on towards Prineville.
I don't have a problem with making sure it's safe. Your office to make sure that the sign is located in an area. That directs traffic appropriately and also provides for safe clearance on the site triangle.
Comfortable with that, Mr. Chair?
Any questions?
Hearing none.
I have a question. What color is the sign on the building gonna be? You said it's back illuminated, but is it gonna be like a white sign with, or it's gonna be blue or, you know?
Don't have the exact colors. Do you know what colors you're gonna have on your sign?
Building, so it's not gonna be like neon green.
Right. Something.
I'm just wondering how much light will come on. See, I might disagree with everybody else, but that area of Prineville Road, a lot of it's kind of dark over there, so a little bit of light I don't think's bad as long as Mark's satisfied. It's not a glare on the upcoming, vehicles and stuff, and I'm sure he can work with whatever he feels is appropriate.
And the sign on the building is backlit metal letters, basically. So that's going to give off, less light as well.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, Ms. Lonsky, call your next witness.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See if we can keep the microphone on.
Yeah, sure.
Our next witness is our traffic expert, and frankly, I was just going to open it to board questions.
Well, let's swear the witness in.
Yes.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
Say your full name, spell your last name.
Yes, J. Troutman, Troutman.
And give us your background.
Yes, I'm a principal with the firm of McDonough and Ray Associates. I've been practicing in the field of traffic engineering for 35 years, conducting traffic studies for various types of developments, as well as reviewing traffic studies for the planning and zoning boards that I represent. And I've been accepted in Monroe Township.
Thank you. I've no objection to accept your credentials. Thank you.
Thank you.
And just by way of background, as the operations were previously described and the minimal impact on traffic, there was a traffic report that was submitted as part of the application process. But frankly, I was just going to open it to board questions rather than spend the board's time listening to what they've kind of already have read.
Mark, do you have any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I'll start. I believe Mr. Pelori had a question earlier with regarding turning radius for some of the vehicles that are coming in. I believe pulling a trailer with lawnmowers on it.
Yes, all of the intersections can accommodate that design vehicle.
Thank you. I've gone through your traffic report, and as far as the current study, it demonstrates that there's adequate traffic capacity to accommodate this site. So I really have nothing further for the traffic engineer.
Anybody from the board?
Is there a requirement for you to do a study to see whether or not a traffic light is warranted at that intersection?
Yes, that was included in the report. What we did was, as you all know, the Amazon building has been open. So we took measurements last Christmas shopping season in December of 2021. And it's not even close to needing a traffic light yet. The traffic moves freely in and out of that intersection. I think the improvements came out really nice that the county required them to put in, so you have all the turning lanes and all the adequate sized geometry for all the vehicles and plenty of capacity.
Are you required to continue to do a study?
Yes, as buildings become occupied. There's only 2 buildings generating traffic, believe it or not, in that park, Amazon and the Sports Center. Those are the only 2 open businesses. The next one that's going to start generating would be the warehouse in Millstone at the corner of 33 and Devon.
Anyone else? Okay. Ms. Lonsky, any more witnesses?
I had Lorelei as a planner to preside planning testimony.
Excuse me, Mr. Lonsky. Because Lorelei has testified so extensively, maybe you should do the same thing and just open it up to questions.
Yeah, I could do that. I was going to have her present her qualifications as a planner, but if the board
Well,
so
that should take all
not
2 minutes.
necessary, then so be it. So Laura, I think from a planning perspective, the board has heard quite a bit of testimony, and they're prepared just to ask any questions that they may have.
Right, could I list the variances?
I think we need
just
to do that.
make sure that we understand them all, and then the variances and waivers. Start with the waivers. So the pavement cross-section is a waiver because we're proposing porous pavement and it's not in the ordinance. We propose a flared-end section instead of a head wall. We are currently looking at an alternative to connect into an existing pipe, but I would ask that the board grant that waiver from head wall to flared end section should I not be able to do that. And that would be working with Mr. Rasimowitz, because flared end sections create less disturbance than head walls do. The pavement cross sections required for the porous pavement and the green technology that we're proposing. There's one for lighting, because it's 75% of the parking lot has to be above the average. I think that's how it goes. So LED lighting is different than the original lighting that was that everybody knew when the ordinance was written. They're much more directional. They're very bright at one spot, and then they're not at the next. So I think if we come up with a plan that's acceptable in terms of the overall lighting, I would that the variance could be granted because of the different type of lighting that the ordinance did not anticipate when it was being written. Trash enclosure, a variance for providing landscaping on the north side because it abuts the parking lot. I think that's one that I saw in there. So with regard to that, we're not just proposing a chain link fence around the trash as a trash enclosure, or one with slats, or even a board-on-board fence. We're proposing a split-face block fence wall around 3 sides. So that's what you would see from the parking lot where the vehicles where vehicles would park adjacent to it. And we actually have one in my development where my building is, and it's not unattractive. It's not like a falling down fence. It also tends to last longer than chain link fences do and board-on-board fences do, as being enclosures for trash receptacles, because I don't know, those guys that come and pick it up, they just slam those things around, right? And they don't even close the doors, the gates, I mean. So I think those are the waivers that we're discussing, and I think I also gave the reasons why granting these waivers is the benefits outweigh the detriments of those. The variances that I think we're talking about are the minimum lot width, which I didn't even realize because it had never been brought up before, but it's obvious when you look at it. The parking within 30 feet off the building, let's see, the parking space being 18 by 10 instead of 20 by 10. And the number of parking spaces, is that a technical, or is that okay?
That's okay. I think the way it's been calculated, I guess you're required 28 spaces, and you're proposing 27 and an EV space, so you get a bonus of
Okay,
that.
just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the 100-foot wide landscaping buffer is my opinion, maybe the largest of those. So first, I'd like to talk about the easy ones. Parking within 30 feet of the building. There's two sides of the building that don't have any parking at all. The side, it's not up. The one side where the turnaround is, or the parking space for the truck, will not be occupied very often. And I believe that the other spaces, which are 12 feet off the building, that is a safe distance for cars to be off the face of the building. So I think you can grant that variance, that it promotes the use of the site because it's a narrower site with strip parking running through it, to push the parking another 17 feet off would not benefit the layout or the use of the property based upon all the wetlands and the way the lot is configured. So I think that that could be granted due to the uniqueness of the site. It doesn't impact the public good or welfare. We'll just keep going with them. Okay. Let's see. The 18 by 10 spaces we spoke about. I think that the benefits of less pavement, but still having the length required for a 20-foot vehicle is a positive, that the benefits of granting that variance outweigh the detriments, and there's no impact on the zone and zone plan because it's a green way to be. So that leaves us with the 100-foot wide landscape buffer. So that buffer, we're proposing, it's a little over 60 feet because the building's a foot off the setback line, because it's a 60-foot building setback line in this zone. So most of the frontage, as I testified previously, is wetlands, and the property is narrow, and that's the way the lot was approved back in 2000. I think this is a good use of the property, and if we had to push the buffer into, let's see, going back to Exhibit A1, if we had to go to another 40 feet, we'd be going a third of the way through the building. And the size building, 11,000 square foot storage and 2,880 square feet of office is a nice size. It's not large, fits the property well. And we're mitigating the lack of buffer by providing lots of landscaping right around the building. When you come from the north, you will be looking through the wetlands areas and buffers as they grow up, as well as the landscaping that's located along the fence, that's located along the parking lot. So it will buffer you from all the vehicles that might be parked there. And then you have the building that's a nice looking building, as you saw from what Mr. Adasti described, softened with landscaping. And we've also agreed to come in and fill in any gaps that might be there with additional landscaping. And then coming from the south going north, you've got the detention basin there that gives you a great feeling of space. So I think that this is a unique site in its shape and its configuration, and that there is a lot of openness about this, even though we're not providing that extra 40 feet of landscape buffer. So I believe that you can grant that without substantial detriment to the public good, as well as to the zone and zone plan, because it's a fairly unique site in the town. Any questions? Oh, number of signs. I totally forgot signs, but go ahead, please.
I was going to bring up a couple of more variances. So to confirm, the number of signs, monument signs proposed are 2, whereas
Yes.
1 is required. Also, I think it's a technical variance where no use, activity, or sign is permitted in the buffer. And I believe the monument signs are being proposed in that buffer area.
Yes, I have them listed. I just forgot to say them. Thank you.
Okay. And the other one variance was the loading stall size. I think it's 10 by 30 is being proposed, where 12 by 50 is required.
We do have one that's 12 by 50, and that would be the truck parking area.
That's the trailer parking, right?
You'd only park a trailer there to unload
And
it.
then you need 2 loading spaces, so one of them won't be meeting, so it's a 10 by 30. So
Okay, I see your point. Yes.
So those were the additional variances. And one waiver, I know you looked at me and I confirmed those were the variances. It's again, the fences are required to be within 6 inches of the property line. I understand over here fences are being proposed to the interior of the site. Again, my opinion, it does enhance the property. It's a technical waiver, but just to put it on record, it's a
Sign,
Yeah.
I had that one listed also.
Design waiver for
It's-
fence.
yeah, Fencing and guardrails have to be located within 6 inches
Inches
of the
of the
property
property
line, and we're proposing that they be further into the line.
Okay. Usually it's the other way around. They're too close to the property line.
I know.
Okay, well, so, and then the final one was the lot width, which we can't change. With regard to the signs, there was a lot of testimony about why 2 signs would be beneficial. And we have, for navigating, for safety, and I didn't say when I was testifying for emergency vehicles, which is very important. So I think that working with the board engineer with regard to the lighting on the sign, that 2 signs on this unique corner lot is a positive thing in this case, and sharing a sign with Monroe Sports Center, because this is different. This particular area doesn't have any of those large signs that list all the businesses on it. So this will help people getting into the Monroe part of it to the more local people, emergency vehicles, and deliveries get to the sites they want to go to. With regard to the sign being located in the landscape area, that area has existed for quite some time the way it is with the landscaping that's there, and I don't think we need to remove any landscaping. I know we don't need to remove any landscaping to put in the sign, so there would be really no impact on the 100-foot buffer with putting the sign in, and there's already one there that's got 2x4s to support it. So I think this sign will be a lot more attractive as well than the sign that's there now. So I believe the board could grant those variances for the sign in the 100-foot landscape easement, as well as 2 monument signs without impacting the public good. In fact, maybe helping it because it'll be easier to find, or impacting the zone plan because of the unique circumstances of this particular property. Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to open it up to the public. Anybody from the public wish to be heard? Hearing none, we'll close the public portion of this application.
Well, one of the 5 boys were going to come up and speak in favor of the application, but apparently not, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, there's been, the application is on the table. Also, do we discuss the variances as part of a contingency on the application?
Say it again?
They're proposing variances that go into.
Yes.
Okay, so, is there a motion be made and in consideration of the variances that's been requested?
I will make the motion. However, I just still want to consult our professionals about the concern with the 3 signs essentially right now. And there is a variance on that as well. One thing that we haven't talked about is the largest sign that's at the intersection of Perrineville Road and the other roadway is, can we reduce the size of it so that the illumination is not too powerful on the road? Was that considered? Is that an option? Mark?
I didn't quite understand what you were asking.
I'm just wondering about the size of the sign, even if they want to go with the 3 signs. I call this as 3 signs because there's one on the building, right? I get the point that if you go past the building, that's when you see it, you don't see it prior. But can we reduce the size of the sign at the intersection? I think, what did you say it was, 70 feet by?
No.
7 feet by?
3 by 7.
3 by 7, yeah.
And it also has the tennis on it.
So I mean, you could reduce the size of the lettering and you could reduce the size of the sign if you can.
Well, the overall sign is a little bit bigger, I believe, but
Yeah.
the.
So,
Alpine,
I'm gonna probably, and please correct me if I'm, so the one sign that's gonna contain the two uses, the two names, is going to be at the intersection of Jamesburg, Perrineville, as well as the Farrington Boulevard. That total sign is gonna be around 48 square feet. With, you know, the inside lettering of each use 7x3, that's what was testified to. The inside sign, which is the other monument sign, which is just at the entrance of this site on Farrington Boulevard, is also proposed to be 48 square feet, and is going to contain the building lettering and the name of just this business.
Right.
So I think what you are, they both meet the permitted sign size. It's just the number of signs that they are exceeding. So I think what you are trying to suggest is maybe the inside sign, the Farrington Boulevard, if that can be reduced.
No, I'm talking about the other one.
Oh, the other one?
Yeah. Because the concern, if I may explain why I'm proposing that is, I think the concern expressed by our board engineer is the glare of the light coming out of it. So if you reduce the size of it, the glare will be lesser than what it is. That's what I was wondering if that's a possibility.
I think the part of testimony, and I don't want to speak for them, and I understand the board engineer's point of view. I think they were saying that these are going to be LED backlit lighting, and they would be working with the board engineer's office in order to make sure that it's not impacting the traffic, as well as, you know, creating any kind
Right.
of.
I heard in Laura Lee's testimony that only at one spot you're going to see a very bright light. Once you go past it, it's going to be dissipated somewhat.
I think she's talking about the site lighting on.
Side lighting,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
Again, I don't want to speak, but.
Is
maybe
that
that's-
correct? Okay, that's what you meant. Okay, got it.
Chairman, if I can just add, I mean, the second sign they've agreed to not illuminate. And as far as the first sign, again, the size of the sign meets the ordinance. Again, it's highway development zone. We do, under our ordinance, have a limitation as to the amount of light that can be illuminated out of there. So if there is a glare issue, that would have to be addressed. You know, the location, I'll look at it again, whether that should be pulled back a little bit. But certainly we can work that out with Lorelei. And it does have both businesses on it, which does clean up the mess of a sign that's out there right now. So I'm comfortable with that. And again, they conceded on the other sign not being lit.
Okay, so I make a motion to approve the application with all the variances that talked about with no lighting on the second sign located at the entrance into the sign.
Okay, but you have to address preliminary versus
Final,
final.
right. So that was I was asking. Typically, we don't entertain both preliminary and final in the same hearing. So I'm going to see what the recommendation is here. I think the application is pretty straightforward. I leave it up to the board experts to decide, but I'm in favor of approving both in one shot. Small business trying to do business in Monroe. We encourage them not to spend more money to get all the professionals back out again. But I differ to the attorney.
It's not, it's a board decision.
Yeah.
We've had a practice with, when you have some complex issues that have to be discussed maybe later with the planner or the engineer. So we have not been routinely granting preliminary and final at the same time, but there have been exceptions.
Yeah, if I may. This does sound like an exception. We had a total, including your wife, that came up to 10 people. I don't see major traffic impact, and assuming your kids don't make noise at 7 o'clock, I don't see waking up the neighbors. So with that, I think we can go with both preliminary and final, with all the variances that were talked about and with the signage that we just said. I will second the nomination, the recommendation.
You made the
I made
initial
the motion, right.
So your motion is preliminary and
And
final.
final, correct.
Yes.
With bulk variance.
Yes, and I'm seconding that.
And Mr. Chairman, that includes all the conditions that they've agreed to, you know, outside
Yes.
storage, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a comment?
Yes.
Yeah, we're looking at what we have here. as opposed to think about what we might have if we don't have this. What's going to be on that location? It could be something far more obtrusive and far more of an issue. I'm particularly impressed. I think this is going to be something. It's going to be a tax rateable for the town. It's going to be good for the town. It's going to have minimal real truck traffic, which is another big concern that many of our residents have. It's not a residential thing where there's going to be any additional clause about school or anything. I don't think it's going to be particularly loud or offensive in any way. It's going to end around, dusk usually, because that's when most of the things will end. I think that this is great. I think it's nice, and it'll be wonderful to have a family business in town, which I think is a very good thing. So I would wholeheartedly approve it. I'd ask my other members on the board to consider that also.
There's a motion on the board to get a roll call.
Yes, there's a motion pending. The chairman will handle the application and the vote.
Okay, can take the vote.
Mr. Pelori,
Yes.
Mr. Rothman,
Yes.
Ms. Polidoro,
Yes.
Ms. Brodsky,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Mr. Patel, Councilman Van Zora,
Yes.
Mr. Markel,
Yes.
Chairman Gaffrey.
Yes. Okay, it's approved.
Well,
Thank you,
Both
Well-
preliminary and final. Okay, then just moving along the agenda under memorialization, there's nothing to memorialize this week, no resolutions. I don't think there's anybody from the public here, but I'll announce it for the record. Anybody from the public wish to be heard?
Okay.
Hearing none, is there a
Mr.
motion to close the public?
Mr. Chairman, we had a resolution approving the master plan with a couple of addendums to it. Is that something we would be memorializing tonight?
We memorialized already.
We did.
Yeah, I prepared the resolution for
Right.
that evening.
Right.
Then when you made those two additional comments, they were incorporated into the final draft.
Okay, but we don't have to vote on it a second time at this point.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, anybody make a motion to close the public portion? Second. Okay, any discussion items this week? Month?
Just one. I'm wishing everybody a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, a great Diwali. Are there any other holidays that we have coming up? And New Year's Day. So have it all. Yeah.
Anything else?
I did say Hanukkah. Sure.
Okay, any correspondence this week? None?
What else?
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn? Second?
Now you're answering. You had me scared there.
Diwali?
I know.
It's over? I missed it? Sorry.